Hello, my name is Oscar. I study at the Pan American University of Puerto in the Faculty of Education and Humanities School of Modern Languages. In today's video, we are going to study how the misuse or the omission of taking in the meaning of taking into account two of the 7 textuality standards proposed by Robert Alain de Bogart and Wolfgang Dressler in An Introduction to Text Linguistics can result in a failed communication in English. And I am referring specifically to the following standards: situationality first, and acceptability. So we're going to take a look at these two standards of communication, of textuality: situationality and acceptability, again, and how their misuse or omission can cause a communication attempt in English to fail. So situationality is related to context, and what I mean by that is context in a very broad sense: geographical context, social context, spatial awareness context of the physical place where the exchange is occurring. So let's take a few of these factors that I have just mentioned and put them together in a concrete example, so we can take a look at how situationality is so key to having a proper communication in English, and how the omission or the failure to take into account this particular standard can cause a communication attempt to fail. So we were talking about context in the case of situationality. Let's picture an exchange in English that is taking place in a public library. One of the universal rules in libraries worldwide is that you must remain silent or speak with a soft voice or in a low volume, keeping the space free of noise because people are reading. So this is a social and a physical space context that is necessary to take into account when or during an exchange in English. Let's say, for example, that I am going to ask a stranger that is sitting across the table from me in the library what book are they reading and what is it about. And this is a stranger. So since this is a stranger, again, that's another social context cue that must be taken into account, and all of those factors that I'm mentioning are encompassed in the situationality. And what do I mean by this? Since this is a stranger, I cannot approach them as if they were a close friend. Like, hey, you, with total disregard for courtesy and manners. So again, let's pretend we are at a public library. I am trying to ask a question about the book that the person across the table from me is reading. And what do? Let's say that I speak. Let's don't say that I speak. Let's say that I yell at him. Okay? I yell at the top of my lungs in a informal way, and I yell to him, "What book are you reading, man?" Or "Dude," something extremely informal, extremely inappropriate. So what this will result, I may be for asking the question with the proper words in theory, grammatically, but in a horrible way given the context, both the social context and the spatial context, and the space of the library. So what is the most likely outcome of this communication attempt? The person is going to hide their face behind their book and most likely stand up and leave and switch to another table. So that's what situationality means, and it encompasses all of those factors. Now, on the contrary, if I were to ask with a very soft voice, in a polite way, excuse me, sir, would you mind telling me what that book you have there is about?" In a very soft and polite manner, then the situation is completely different, because I am acting in accordance with the social context and with the rules and with the compromises of the space that we are in. All right? So what is the most likely outcome of that communication attempt? Maybe the person will, in the same manner, politely and with a soft voice, tell me it's about this, it's about that. And the communication attempt would be successful. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on situationality, so let's quickly move on to acceptability. Acceptability is a little bit different. This standard relates more so to the receptor of the message in basic communication terms. So we can infer by the name acceptability that the protagonist, so to say, of this standard is the receiving part of the message. But what does it mean, acceptability? Acceptability has more to do with logic, with what makes sense to convey, or according to the expectations of the receptor or the receiving part of the communication. The most simple way to understand this is with a question and answer format. If a person asks me, "What time is it?" What time is it? Asking about the time. Okay? And maybe I can respond to them in perfect English in accordance with social context and situational context. Same example. Let's say we're in the library. So I respond in the correct volume of voice, with the correct and appropriate formality, right? But my answer is, "I just had lunch. I just had lunch." So that answer, it is completely irrelevant illogical to the question that is being asked. All right, so it is not acceptable. It does not follow and it does not make any logical sense. Therefore, the communication attempt has failed. Another way of looking at this is with the in the case of formality. It's another way that is easier and simpler to understand this concept. Let's say that I am speaking to a professor, and what the usual thing would be expected of me as a student is that I only reach out via email with a formal way to address him with courtesy and respect. And let's say that instead of doing that, I make a phone call to their private cell phone and talk to them in an informal way, or make a demand or a request without taking into account the relationship between student and teacher. So maybe I am trying to ask what time is going to be the next class, for example. But since I didn't follow the appropriate channels and I'm doing it in a way that is not expected, and I am maybe asking it with slang, for example, or a very informal way of speaking, hello, teach, what time is completely inappropriate. So what is the most likely outcome? The teacher can very easily hang up and don't respond a word to me. And that is how not thinking about the acceptability of the message can lead to a failed communication attempt. If I were to use the proper channels, the proper language, I could get a successful exchange where the teacher could answer via email, of course, Oscar, the class is at this time on this day. And that would be a successful exchange. I hope that will be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching it. I hope everything was clear. And thank you so much for watching again. I will see you on the next video. Goodbye for now.